Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday. Gotta get down on Friday, and it's my favourite time of all of the week, and there's only one reason for that. That's because it's time to talk about my wrestlers of the week. And my, what a big week it's been. People still scrapping for points right towards the end of the year, right down to the wire. You absolutely love to see it. And because of that, if you give me 1 sec to grab my notes, we have a boatload of honourable mentions to talk about right now. Lio Rush, great match in GCW, first and foremost. We've also got I'm just totally pieing off a number of other honourable mentions there. First, but not necessarily foremost, Lio Rush, great match. Elsewhere, of course, just a whole host of people from WarGames who I found very, very impressive. Dakota Kai, Ember Moon, Pete Dunne, Adam Cole, Pat McAfee, Johnny Gargano as well, of course, won the North American Championship. But Leon Ruff got a chance to really show what he could do as well in that match. Damian Priest fell victim to interference, so I'm not sure if I should give him one. It would be a bit of a pity one if I did. Tyler Bate, great match on NXT UK. Orange Cassidy, great losing effort on AEW as well. And Kazusada Higuchi over in DDT getting a 4-minute win or something. Very quick win over none other than Jun Akiyama, the legendary Jun Akiyama. So it's a pretty big week for him too. But now that all of the honourable mentions are out of the way, it's time to talk about another person who showed out at WarGames and had a really good performance. None other than the NXT Women's Champion, Io Shirai. Now, I don't mean to brag, right, but I was the only person here at Cultaholic.com who predicted that Io Shirai would lose the match and that her team would lose the Women's WarGames match. And I was the only one proven correct because of that. But I don't just bring that up to brag, I bring that up because my logic behind that choice is kind of relevant here. I thought that Io's team would lose because she is the NXT Women's Champion, and if she loses, there's a whole host of potential challenges on the other team. And that is pretty much what happened with Io losing and thereby opening the window for a lot of different challenges to crawl through in pursuit of the gold. But we're not here to talk about Io being a big old loser in the match, and she did take the pinfall. She kind of lost it for her team as well. You could say she's let them down. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about her journey on the way to that finish, her performance in the match itself, which was, of course, phenomenal. I'm talking as well, obviously, about the big spot that everybody's going to remember from that match. The dive from the top of the cage into the ring with the trash can over the head, just a blind leap of faith. It looked like something that Darby Allin would do, but no, it was Io Shirai, and she pulled it off fantastically. And I just can't believe the balls on her because, man, I mean, who would jump off the cage anyway who's not a wrestler? But jumping off the cage with a trash can over her head, to mere mortals like us, that is just unimaginable. And generally her performance in the match itself was good as well once she made her dramatic entrance, but she didn't have as much time to make an impression as some of the others in the match because, of course, she was the last person on her team to enter the bout. So I'm not entirely certain whether or not she could have gone higher on this list maybe if she hadn't been a big old loser-rooney. But as it stands, she only gets 1 point. That's how strong a week it's been. But well done, Io Shirai. I think you deserve your place here. Next up, we're going to go over to NXT UK, and we're going to talk about a man who recently, last week or the week before, won the Heritage Cup tournament and thereby won the Heritage Cup. And that man, of course, is Spanish wrestling little magician maestro man, A-Kid. A-Kid, I was worried basically for him. I was worried that once he'd won this tournament, then he was going to just get lost in the shuffle once again. They weren't going to have any sort of sustained push for him towards the championship or even just higher up the card. Thankfully though, it seems as though they have got behind A-Kid and that push is continuing because he got a win over one of the strongest presented wrestlers in the admittedly quite brief history of NXT UK. Because this week A-Kid took on Tyler Bate. I was expecting Tyler Bate to beat him, but actually A-Kid won, which I think was the right call. I was just a bit worried because often Tyler Bate wins a lot of matches, but I think that was the right call here. Despite how great Tyler Bate of course is, I think at this moment in time you want to give A-Kid that win, and that's exactly what NXT UK did. There was a minor bit of disappointment for me, which might be why A-Kid only gets 2 points this week, and that was the fact that this was in the rounds format like the whole tournament was that he won. I'd have just the rounds format, right? WWE seems to think that British wrestling just loves the rounds format. We don't. It hasn't been a thing for 40 years, maybe a bit longer. We like good wrestling no matter what format it's presented in, and I think that these rounds matches, rather than make everybody British go, oh, jolly good show. They did some rounds there. It's bloody beautiful wrestling, that is. It just makes us want to see those same matches in a normal singles environment. That's my personal opinion anyway. So I would have loved to have seen A-Kid versus Tyler Bate in just a straight up singles match more than I would have a rounds based match. But they made the rounds format work as best they could. It was still a good match, still very enjoyable, and at the end of the day, the right man won in my opinion. So A-Kid, congratulations. It looks like his push is continuing and he's got 2 points on this week's league table. Number 8, from a very lovable man in the form of A-Kid to a very detestable man in the form of MJF, picking up 3 points this week after main eventing Dynamite and doing very well in the process in my opinion. MJF of course was taking on Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He won last year's Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal and subsequent singles match between the finalists. This was that singles match between the finalists in the Battle Royal because him and Orange Cassidy survived last week and they throw down this week on Dynamite. And this match was very sports entertaining to me, but in a great way. No, that's not necessarily a bad thing when it's done really well, and I think this was done really well. Yes, a lot of people got involved from the outside. At one point on commentary they were saying this is basically turned into a lumberjack match. On one side of the ring you had all of the Inner Circle supporting MJF. On the other side of the ring, of course, you had a lot of just assorted lower card to mid card baby faces that the best friends had brought for Orange Cassidy to even the odds at ringside, which was nice of them. So you had a lot of involvement from those sort of guys, but I don't think it detracted too much from the match because it was really sports entertaining anyway, as I say. The heeliest of heels, the facest of baby faces going at it, and I think it was worked really impressively. I liked how Orange Cassidy's hand became the focus of the match. He went for the orange punch, missed of course, MJF rolled out the way, and he punched the ring post, and then MJF wisely, and very effectively as well, worked the hand throughout the rest of the match. That made the Fujiwara armbar a really tense moment because he was also punching away at the hand as he had the armbar locked in, but Orange Cassidy managed to get out of it and instead fell victim to an interfering Miro who just clocked him with a big running lariat, and MJF was able to pick up the tainted win. Not that he cared at all. Now this is obviously done to further the feud between Kip Sabian and Miro and the best friends and Orange Cassidy. But I was shocked. I thought that Orange Cassidy would win this match and win the Dynamite Diamond Ring. I thought that the ring was going to play into the whole Kip Sabian Miro kind of thing because obviously Kip's getting married to Penelope Ford. That could have been the ring for the wedding essentially. That's just a theory I had in my head which has proven to be massively incorrect. I don't know why they haven't gone for that. I'm very upset that it's not come to fruition, to be quite honest with you. But I'm not going to let that spoil my enjoyment of this match. I still thought it was really, really good stuff. MJF continues to impress. He's just phenomenal each and every week basically. Whatever he's asked to do, he makes the very most of it, whether that be in the ring or out of the ring. This week he got a chance to show both. He had that main event match, which of course he won, and also in the Inner Circle Ultimatum kind of segment, he of course was joined by all the other members of the stable and they all hashed it out and agreed for now to work together. But if anything goes wrong again in the future, MJF is of course gonna Sammy Guevara is of course gonna leave forever. I say MJF because I'm pretty sure that MJF's gonna cause it. So while we wait for Sammy to potentially feud with MJF after he's left the Inner Circle, and potentially Jericho as well, while we wait for that to happen, we're guaranteed a lot of entertainment from Maxwell in the near future. So congratulations to him, 3 points this week, and we move on to number 7. Back to WarGames now and the main event match, which I thought was very enjoyable, but I do admit, as a lot of people pointed out, it went on very, very long. It could have been shorter and it would have still been just as fun, in my opinion. But the man I'm going to talk about in this match was a member of the victorious side, the Undisputed Era. Can't do it. Always get mixed up which way around it goes. That says Era Undisputed. I've messed it up. But he was a member of the victorious team. It's none other than Kyle O'Reilly. Now, while a lot of the match was focused on Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee, of course, a lot of the match also was focused on Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne going at it, which I think is very interesting indeed. I guess it really shows that NXT trust both Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne in their abilities to carry a match and be the glue and the thread that holds an entire match together, especially a match of such length. And Kyle, of course, was heavily involved in the finish too, helping to finally put away Pat McAfee's team once and for all after a big, big struggle. Well done to the Undisputed Era, but I don't know if I agree with them winning. I feel like Pat's team maybe should have won, but we'll see where they go in the future with this. Anyway, a great performance from Kyle O'Reilly there in that match, and also, it's worth mentioning, a good performance as well vocally on NXT. He didn't wrestle, but he did insert himself into the mix for the NXT Championship once again. When he lost against Balor, I thought that was game over for him. I thought that was his one chance at the title gone, and we'd never see him as NXT Champion. But he's kind of back there. He's kind of back in the mix, as I mentioned. He sort of inserted himself in there in the top of the show. Basically, in the opening segment, Finn Balor came out and was interrupted by, I think it was Dunn, O'Reilly, and Damian Priest, and then of course Scarlett representing Karrion Kross. So I don't know, it's anyone's game really. I think Pete Dunne might win it, but I mean, I'd like to see him win it, or Kyle, to be honest. So great stuff from Kyle O'Reilly there. Big performance in WarGames, but I'm more excited, I think, for what he does in 2021. Who's he going to feud with? Will he be champion? I wouldn't put money on it, but I still think he's going to provide us with a lot of excitement. Number 6, sticking with WarGames right now, but a different match. Back to that women's match at the start of the show. We're going to talk about the winner of the match. She won the match for her team, essentially, Raquel Gonzalez. Gonzalez gets on this list and picks up a fair amount of points because not only did she pin the champion Io Shirai, but she demonstrated how much she's improved in quite a short space of time. I think she's really come along quite quickly since first starting on NXT, or maybe just has been given more of a chance to show what she could already do, I suppose. I'm not certain which one it is. I wasn't too familiar with her before WWE, but I'm glad either way. But yes, she pinned Io Shirai, pinning the NXT Women's Champion, surely giving herself a claim on the NXT Women's Championship, which I'm very excited for. I think that she could have a great match with Io Shirai if Shirai is indeed the champion by the time that that match gets put together. Surely it will. Raquel must have secured herself a title shot here with this win. But also, she wrestled a good match as well on NXT in the main event, picking up the victory over Ember Moon. And then there was a hint as to what's next for Raquel in the future, because which was surprising to me, because I thought she'd just go straight into a feud with Io Shirai, but that's not quite what happened, was it? Because Raquel beat Ember Moon, and then Toni Storm came out to beat down Ember Moon. It looks like they're going to have a big match at some point. But Raquel was kind of stared down by Rhea Ripley instead. Io wasn't really anywhere to be seen in this little segment. In fact, earlier on in the show, it was Toni Storm who attacked Io Shirai, and they had a brawl from backstage into the arena, and then Ember Moon got involved to help out the babyface. So I don't know where that leaves Raquel Gonzalez. It looks like she's going to feud with Rhea Ripley for a little bit, but what does that mean in terms of the title shot that she is surely owed? I hope that she gets it. I hope they don't forget about this. Hashtag justice for Raquel. She needs that title shot. She pinned the champion in WarGames, and I'll be livid if she doesn't get it. Next up, let's talk about, in the honourable mentions, I said that Lio Rush had a good match at GCW this week, and his opponent is number 5 this week, picking up the huge victory. It's Blake Christian, a man who has been on Wrestlers of the Week before once or twice, and I think has a very bright future. Apparently, I've just checked there, and All Heart, that's his nickname, is only 23 years old apparently, which is very promising for him indeed. He's got a lot of years ahead of him, and hopefully they are packed with excellent matches such as this one at GCW Slime Season. Don't know what that name's about for the show, but it had a good main event. And the reason it was a good main event was because Blake Christian and Lio Rush are both excellent at high flying and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, I think that they didn't exactly dial that back. There was certainly a lot of big spots in this match, a 450 while Lio Rush was on the middle rope and stuff. But I think that they still managed to pack a lot of storytelling in and a lot of, you know, what we think of as proper wrestling, I suppose, not just a bit of an indie spot fest. And I have to commend them for that. Lio Rush brought back the Blackheart character as well. It was all kind of going really well. And then Blake Christian pulled out the big victory, obviously winning over a more established name like Lio Rush. That's going to do him wonders. But moreover, I think the thing that's really going to help him out is excellent performances like this one. And as well as this, they could face each other again very, very soon, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, both men are about to go into the Super J Cup for New Japan, which is just loaded with talent at the moment, so I'm very excited to see what happens there. Quick mention on New Japan actually, the Best of the Super Juniors final took place today at the time of recording, this morning. I did watch the match, but obviously because it's Friday and we're talking about last week, that's not going to be taken into account until next week's Wrestlers of the Week. Now on to number 4, back to WarGames, which I think was actually a pretty solid show. There were a lot of good matches on there. This was a man who lost a match that he maybe should have won, but lost in impressive fashion anyway. Timothy Thatcher. Now this match was an interesting one and a bold choice, because not only did it follow the women's WarGames match, so it had a lot of high spots and a lot of weaponry and stuff to follow, but it was also interesting and bold, I think, because they didn't just wrestle your standard match. They wrestled a Timothy Thatcher sort of match. There was a lot of grappling, a lot of submission attempts, a lot of grinding down, and a lot of big stiff strikes as well. And I think that both men did it really, really well. And it was never boring, it never kind of got anybody tired or sick of watching it. I think it was quite engaging and compelling all the way through. And they were helped out, of course, in terms of how thrilling the match was by the unfortunate fact that Thatcher's ear popped open on a knee strike from Ciampa and he was bleeding everywhere. But unfortunately, sometimes in wrestling, blood's exciting, and I think this was one of those cases. It helped afterwards as well in the big stare down after the match because both men looked battered and beaten, and Thatcher, of course, well, both men were covered in Thatcher's blood. Now, the stare down was interesting to me and kind of reassuring because I wanted Thatcher to win this match. I think he would have benefited a lot more from the victory than Ciampa, who's done it all in NXT. But, you know, Ciampa won. They still had that stare down afterwards, which makes me think that either they're going to team up or this is not the end of the feud and we're going to see more matches between the two, which I would be 100% in favour of because they were really excellent together. But we can't dwell on it for too long because we have to move on very swiftly to number 3, which is Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa won the match. In my opinion, it was probably the best match of the night if we're looking at the show as a whole. The WarGames matches were thrilling in their own ways, but just as a really good match, I think this was the one for me. And I have to give credit to Ciampa. I know that he's fantastic. I've been obviously a fan of his for years, but I did not realise, I kind of forgot maybe, how versatile he is. And I forgot, or didn't realise ever, I'm not entirely certain, how he could work such a grueling technical match as well. In fact, no, I did know this because I remember in Progress years ago, he had a very good match, very good feud even, with Zack Sabre Jr., which was a little bit more like this style of wrestling. So I did know he could do that, but I think I just forgot about it. But this was a very timely reminder. Ciampa was on top form as well, which really helps. He just looked awesome. He was doing really, really well. It wasn't too devastating that he won the match because, as I mentioned, the aftermath gives hope to fans of Timothy Thatcher. And I don't know if you lose that much credibility losing to someone like Tommaso Ciampa anyway. One of the best champions in NXT history, put on some of the best matches in NXT history, and before that a glittering indie resume too. I don't really think that losing this match would have done Thatcher any damage, even if there hadn't been that post-match angle, but I'm still quite relieved that there was. On Ciampa's part though, I don't know what's next for him. On NXT there were a few little clues maybe. I mean, obviously he wrestled and beat Cameron Grimes, but I don't know if a feud with Grimes is in his future. Maybe this storyline with Thatcher looks like it's going to continue. I just don't quite know in what direction. They've left it quite open and mysterious for now. But regardless, that is 8 big points for Tommaso Ciampa this week. He is in at number 3. Now on to the top 2, and we're going to Japan. That's right, it's time to talk about Pro Wrestling Noah. They had a big show this past week. And the main event, right, so when I was putting this together and doing my research over this past week of wrestling, I was like, oh, big week for NXT. They've really nailed it with WarGames. Lots of points for them. Looks like Ciampa's going to be number 1. And then 2 lads over in Pro Wrestling Noah decided to have almost an hour-long, potentially 5-star match. And what can you do if you're Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher? What can you do? So yes, in a late candidate for match of the year first, number 2 this week, it is Takashi Sugiyura. Now Takashi is a bit of a Noah legend, multiple time champion. He's had tag team success as well. He's been around for years. He knows what he's doing in Noah. He kind of has ruled the roost there in the past. But crucially, he doesn't rule the roost right now, does he? And that's why he had a big old title match to see if he could return to the top. And yeah, it went 50 odd minutes. It was grueling. But it was grueling in a very good way. I think it takes a real skill not only to have the sort of cardio ability to wrestle for that long, but to keep it compelling for most of, if not all of the match. That's the other half of the equation, isn't it? That's the real skill there. And if anyone was going to be able to do that, Sugiura is the man, because he's got all the experience in the world and can wrestle that epic main event Japanese style. And does it really, really well as well. Honestly, I kind of missed his heyday a little bit. I've not seen too many of his big matches, but I was really impressed with this one. How could you not be? And as I mentioned, if you're going to watch it, I mean, awesome, highly recommend it. Do set aside quite a bit of time because it is long, but I'd suggest it's worth it too. He's really targeting the arm of his opponent for a lot of this match as well, trying to take away the big lariats that his opponent often throws. But ultimately, it just wasn't enough, and after such a big effort, I felt sorry for him. I was like, oh my god, he's lost after such a long match and after so many near falls and so many swings of momentum. But that is the nature of big Japanese main events. You know, there's always a winner, there's always a loser, and often you feel so heartbroken for the loser because it's gone on for so long. So Takashi, mate, hope you're all right. I hope these 9 points are some consolation for you. Now, onto his opponent, who happens to be this week's number one. So yes, number one and my wrestler of the week for the second time in 3 weeks is still the champion of Pro Wrestling Noah, Go Shiozaki. He is Noah. Look, he's Noah. He says that there on his shirt. But not content with being a massive biblical figure who herded 2 of every animal onto the ark and all that sort of stuff, Go is also a man who has had one of the best title reigns, I reckon, of 2020. For other people who've had excellent title reigns this year, I mean, you can look at Jon Moxley, for example. You can look at Mayu Iwatani in Stardom. But, you know, Go has been there as well every step of the way. And he's never had it easy. Every one of his opponents that he's faced in 2020 in this title reign has brought something different to the table. But I feel like this was the culmination point so far. This was the longest defense in his reign, surely. I've not fact-checked that, but it surely must be at 50 or so minutes. And also, probably the most difficult match as well. He was really struggling to fire off his signature moves because Takashi had an answer for like loads of the things he was trying. But in the end, it was a tale of endurance and a tale of the champion being a rock-hard man who's, you know, difficult to shift from the top of the perch. Difficult to shift from the top of the perch, that makes no sense. Difficult to knock off his perch at the top of the promotion, that's what I'm trying to say. So Go Shiozaki, man, congratulations, you are my wrestler of the week. And congratulations to both men for a very late candidate for match of the year. But it still must be taken into account, of course, because what an effort they put forth. So there you have it. That is my wrestler of the week. Once again, Go Shiozaki, congratulations to you. Now, let's take a look at the league table after a very strong week. Let's see what's changed. Well, as you can see, Moxley and Omega are still locked in a battle for the Wrestler of the Year trophy. They are still in joint first place with Cody and Shingo and Drew and Tetsuya Endo bringing up the rear. There is Hiromu Takahashi, of course, who took part in the Best of the Super Juniors finals today. His points will be taken into account next week, and I think, unless a mad week happens, he's probably going to win quite a few because that match was very enjoyable indeed. Also, as we move a little bit further down, Hangman Adam Page, who seems to be maybe about to join the Dark Order, and in 16th place there, Go Shiozaki shooting up the table after a wonderful end to 2020. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching this edition of Wrestlers of the Week. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts, opinions, and match recommendations in that comment section down below. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.